We know that Qantas offering 5,000 people redundancies throughout their company. I wonder if you work for Qantas and you live in our local area, I'd like to hear what's happened to you. What's the kind of form of a letter have you got? Are you being forced to take it? Are you being asked to take it? How are we going to get these 5,000 people? And where are they all going to come from? Is it frontline? Is it baggage handlers? Is it people at check-in, as people increasingly use electronic check-ins, for instance? Are they jobs that can go, that should go? Or is Qantas, the full-service airline, expected to be a bit more hands-on? All these questions are still up in the air, really, but I'd be very interested to hear from any Qantas employees that are in our local area, whether you are a pilot or a baggage handler or someone in the front line or in the back office or answering the phones. Give us a call, 1300 973 300. Nick McIntosh is our local delegate from the Transport Workers Union, and he's on the line now. G'day, Nick. How are you going?
Yeah, good morning, Nick. How are you?
How are they going through this process?
Well, I think as came out yesterday and was announced yesterday, everyone's now got this 2-week buffer to. I think you get what happens is you get told, look, do you want to have an estimate of what your entitlements are, and then you got the 2 weeks to make a decision based on that as to whether or not you want to take a voluntary redundancy.
Okay, so the first thing is they ask you if you want to see a calculation.
That's right, Nick. Yeah.
Right. What are they offering in terms of redundancy? I mean, entitlements is normally just here's your accrued long service and here is your holiday pay.
Yep.
Is there anything else on the table?
Well, yes. Normally what happens is, and I don't know what the case is for every different classification of people at Qantas, but certainly for our baggage handlers and fleet presentation people and other people we cover, it's all covered in our enterprise agreement. So in the enterprise agreement it will say, and there's various other industrial instruments too, it will say, look, if you've been, it's just normally based on the amount of time you've been there. So if you've been there for 10 years, you might get X amount of weeks a year, and then you just add that up. But
yeah, it's 2 weeks a year, or whatever it turns out to be.
Whatever it turns out to be, yeah.
Okay, what is your average? What would a baggage handler's agreement normally entitle them to, for instance?
Look, off the top of my head, I don't actually know because I don't personally look after the airport. I haven't looked at it, but a lot of our transport agreements would have 3 weeks a year. Every year you've been there.
Okay.
So it may well be more in this case, or it may be less. And some people, because they've been there 20 plus years, some people may be grandfathered onto instruments from years and years ago as well. So it's a little bit more complicated than just opening up the agreement, but that's around about what you do.
Is it across the board? Is that kind of letter going out to basically everybody in Qantas?
Look, as far as we can tell, yes. I mean, there may be some categories that are exempt that we don't cover or don't look after, but as far as we can tell, I mean, I was speaking last night actually to a friend who is a check-in staff. We don't cover the check-in staff, but they were saying that they were having to make a decision about whether or not to ask for a calculation of entitlements. So I'm guessing that it's across the board that people are getting these letters.
Right. Would it be that most people are looking at their entitlements? I mean, there's no pressure on you, or there's no obligation if you get a calculation. Is that right?
Well, I mean, I think that's probably right, Nick. But the issue is, I mean, most people will probably look at their entitlements just so they have an idea. You know, you've got to have an idea of what it is so that you can properly make the decision. But the issue is this: you know, a week or so ago, there's this big announcement that 5,000 jobs are going. I mean, there was a couple of days of leaks before that, so we knew about a week or so ago there was going to be 5,000 jobs going. Then yesterday we suddenly get told there's voluntary redundancies, but everyone's only got 2 weeks to make that decision. I mean, even if you knew right now this is how much money I would get in a redundancy, how are you going to in 2 weeks decide, well, is that enough for me am I old enough to retire on that? If I'm not, am I going to be able to walk into another job that's going to pay the same amount of money or somewhere around about that amount of money? It's a huge decision to have to make in 2 weeks.
There'd be a lot of people making a lot of appointments with their accountants, I suppose.
Well, that's it, and their super advisors, and also, I mean, the biggest problem is if you know that you have to still work for another 10, 20 years, it's very, very hard in 2 weeks to say, well, am I definitely going to be able to guarantee that I can find another job that's going to be similar pay and that I'm going to be secure in? I mean, it's a very, very tough situation, this 2 week period. And I think that there was actually a Fair Work Commission recommendation yesterday that the Fair Work Commission recommended Qantas actually put at least another 2 weeks on that process because it was just too difficult for people to do.
Well, it was an order, as I understand it. It's a strange one. Let me quote here from a newspaper article from Fairfax. Commissioner Ian Cambridge ordered Qantas to consider extending the March 21 deadline. So it's an order, but it's for them to consider. So what do they do?
Well,
you've ordered us to consider. We've considered, and no.
Well, I mean, that's the problem, isn't it, Nick? And this is where I come back to this has just been a schmozzle of a process where we say that a week ago there's 5,000 jobs without any great details to where they're coming from. Yesterday we get told, look, now everyone's going to get these letters of voluntary redundancy, but you've only got 2 weeks to decide. I mean, it's a pretty rushed process, and once again, you've got to question the whole strategy behind this. I would have thought if you're really trying to do the right thing by people and you're going to cut these jobs, you'd at least give them a couple of months to really have a proper time to make a decision about whether you can actually do this or not.
Okay, Nick McIntosh, good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Nick McIntosh is with the Transport Workers Union in the Illawarra